So, the time has come. Prices have finally dropped. I've never built a computer in my life. But there's a first time for everything. So, we're only waiting on one more part. It's almost time. Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the first PC build of my life. I do have prior experience with making modifications, upgrading computers, that kind of thing, but I've never built one for myself, so this is the first time. Back a few weeks ago, we had our Prime Day. It actually happened to be the same day that prices started to drop for the 30 series, which was the 3080 12 gigabyte, which I was targeting for my GPU for this PC build. So I kind of did a double take when I saw it. It was interesting because I was, up until that point, checking out a lot of videos, trying to figure out performance-wise what made sense. There are a lot of great channels out there like Gamers Nexus and Jay's 2 Cents and a bunch of other ones. And Jay's 2 Cents actually put up a video which I'll share a little clip of.
I'm telling you right now, if you've been waiting for the right time to buy a graphics card and you think that time is going to be when they launch 40 series, I've got news for you. Don't wait. Buy your graphics card today.
Now, I was already thinking about buying it, but like I said, I had it in my cart, I thought about it, I looked at it, I kind of waited, I was doing stuff outside, so just kind of sat there. Then I happened to watch Jay's video, and he said exactly what I was thinking at the time, but I just couldn't pull the trigger on it because it was still really expensive. So I watched it, I thought about it, I said, you know what, he's right. I went back to the page. The first one I was looking at was gone. I wasn't in my cart anymore because it had sold out. I started looking around, and then I found this next one, which I'll show you in just a moment, along with the rest of the parts. And at $799, when it had been traditionally well into the $1,100, $1,200 range, $1,000 on a sale, I figured it was the time to dip in. Now, the only issue was that meant I got to buy the rest of the components. So, like I said, I had been watching a lot of videos trying to figure out what I needed, what the best products were to try and accomplish my goals. My prior PC, I'm not even sure if I made any modifications to it, the one I'm currently using. But that one had lasted me for 7 years. So, and I remember at the time making sure that I purchased a lot of the best parts of that generation just to make sure that I had those options so I didn't have to worry about upgrading for a significant portion of time. That PC, I am thinking about making a couple of upgrades on it just so I have a backup PC, whether it's for video editing, gaming, to give to my significant other, etc. But we'll figure that out down the road. First, the exciting part is building this PC. Now, the original goal was a gaming PC that could also function for content creation. So that has a lot of different things that are required on it, just with the addition of the content creation part. The other part of it that I wanted to make sure was that it's not something that is going to be ancient immediately. I understand that there's the next generation of Intel processors coming, the next generation of AMD and NVIDIA GPUs. However, with the way that things have been launched and the lack of chips, like I said, Jay's video really spoke to me, so I jumped in, I grabbed the video card, I started nabbing up things that I had seen with great reviews. So I literally don't think there's a single piece of this build that was not on some kind of a discount. I could go through all of that as well later in the video and kind of break down the cost of each of the item. I'm gonna go through and talk about the budget, what the total cost of the build was, the overall savings, and all of that good stuff. But first and foremost, let's go through the components. Okay, so here everything is. Running down the components, the first piece I bought, as I was talking about earlier, this is the Zotac GeForce RTX 3080 12 gigabyte card. which again I was able to grab at a discount and kind of started this avalanche of parts that I needed to pick up. Then for the processor, I did go with the Intel Core i7-12700K. I decided to go i7 for the extra cores, especially for content creation, streaming, etc. Could argue I would have gotten almost similar processing power out of the i5. But again, pretty good discount on this. It does give me some headroom in terms of future-proofing is not a great term, but it gives me the opportunity to make sure that for a little extra money, I do have the extra cores should the need arise, especially in future gaming, future content creation as things change. Next, for the motherboard, had a choice between going with a DDR4 or a DDR5 board. Did end up going with the DDR5 version of the MSI Pro Z690A Wi-Fi. A few extra dollars for the Wi-Fi version, but this is going to give me the opportunity to run the slightly faster Vengeance DDR5 sticks I have here. This is a 32 gigabyte set at 5200 megahertz. Up until very recently, DDR5 was extremely expensive for moderate to almost no performance benefit, but this was kind of the deciding factor because I was able to pick this up without spending a ton of extra money. So now I've got 32 gigabytes DDR5, 5200 megahertz, paired up with my DDR5 board. To power all of it, I went with the EVGA 850 G5. This is obviously an 850 watt power supply. Again, significant discount for Prime Day. The other thing that I like, completely modular, but this with 850 watts should give me plenty of headroom, even with the 3080 card and the i7 drawing power from it. For the hard drive, I did go with the Samsung 980 Pro SSD. This is over 7,000 megabytes per second on its write speed. I have the same drive, just 1 terabyte in my PlayStation 5. I have had absolutely no issues with it. Love it so far. When this came on a big discount for 2 terabytes, it actually was less or just about the same as what I paid for my 1 terabyte, I don't know, a year ago. I had to jump on that. And then to cool my processor, I did go with the Galahad AIO 360 RGB. Great reviews and recommendations from Gamers Nexus. Also pricing wise worked out well. Fit into my budget. Last but not least, to house everything, I did go with the Fractal Torrent, which I love the look of it. I love the grill in the front, glass on the side, etc. But in terms of airflow, it should be able to keep everything cool and quiet and have more than enough room with it being a full ATX case in terms of expansion, adding to it anything I need, whether it's adding a capture card, adding hard drives, whatever. It should give me plenty of space, plenty of cooling. Came highly recommended. If you've never seen Gamers Nexus's videos breaking down cases in particular, also pre-built PCs, but they tend to be very picky. This won their Case of the Year 2021. I was a little worried when I picked it out because it wasn't direct from Amazon. This is the one thing that, as you can see, is not in a box. Reason being, the box was dinged up, and I needed to make sure this thing was not broken or damaged in any way before I started putting everything together. So that's all the parts. Now it's time to do one more thing. Build this PC.
The first step is to prepare the case. I do this by removing the front and side panels. And then the top panel where the power supply will be. Next, I remove the filters. And then the sled of fans at the bottom. This turns out to be unnecessary in the end, but at this point I did not know that. Because we're installing the all-in-one cooler that has a 3-fan setup, I need to remove the 2 fans and the brackets in the front of the Fractal. I feed the cables through the side of the case so I can completely remove the fans. To install the power supply, simply place it on the top, slide it to the back with the fan facing down into the case, and screw it into place. Next, I need to remove the mounting points for the larger fans. Now to prepare the motherboard.
Sure, this will come in handy.
To make sure I have a soft surface, I prepare the board on top of the box it came in. I unlatch the cover for the CPU. Installing the CPU is not difficult, but it is one of the scarier moments when building a PC. It's very easy to bend the tiny pins, which can cause some serious issues. I check several times to make sure I'm lining it up correctly. Let it fall into place and give it a slight jiggle to make sure it's in the right place. I carefully close the top. The plastic cover pops off and I remove it. And then I carefully latch it down. Next, to install our SSD, I remove the 2 screws to remove the cover. The SSD slides in at an angle. Once it's firmly seated, I then lean it down onto the riser and secure it in place. Remove the plastic from the back side of the heat plate and secure it back on top of the SSD. Next, to install the RAM. This will go into the 2nd and 4th channels. And I make sure it's seated securely in place. Next, to prepare our all-in-one cooler. The first step is to install the mounting bracket onto the back of the motherboard. The small poles poke through the back side of the motherboard to give a place to mount the risers on the front. This gives us a way to secure our cold plate without physically securing it to the CPU. Next, I install our input-output shield onto the back side of the case. and then slide the motherboard onto the center peg while connecting it with the input-output shield. Once it's in place, I lean down the case and secure the motherboard to the back side. These brackets were included with the Fractal Torrent so that the fans could be switched out. I need to run the cables, the RGB and power cables, through the correct side to make sure that the cables are running down the back side of the case. This will give me easy access to cable manage through the back of the case where they can't be seen. Now what I try to do next is install the fans onto the front, but there is very little clearance between the AIO in the front with the fans and the fans on the bottom of the case. So what I really should have done was install the fans back into the bottom of the case, or never take them out, and then install the AIO. But I'll find out a little later. Next, to put thermal compound on, and then to install the cold plate.
It's hard to see, but the diagram right there is what we're looking for. So JFP1 LED. Let's see.
Now I install the power to the motherboard.
Okay, so I've made some adjustments, I fixed a few things, tidied up some cables, changed how some fans are routed. Ultimately, it's looking almost the same. The one that I did put straight into the board is from the pump. Made that decision, I'm not sure if it really is critical, but I did also find out that I have two RGB headers. I have one right there, and one more up there. Oh, my hands are away. Right there. So I was able to do a smaller daisy chain with those to try and get those connected. So right now, all my RGB should be hooked up. All of my fans are hooked up. The next step is the graphics card. Ooh, right in my fan. That's not what we're looking for. I'm not gonna let any more fall into my fans. Am I good? There it is. She's in there now. Okay. Okay, before powering on, I made the executive decision to move these cables up to the higher slot because number one, it was a tight fit to the power supply. Number two, I was really afraid these cables were going to end up in the fans of the GPU, which would be a nightmare. So, reattaching. Snap one. Snap two. Yeah, so this is much better. Much better clearance, not worried about any fans. I have way more room with this, so I can tidy it up nicer. But we'll do tidying in a minute. Let's plug in the power and see if everything turns on. It's cable time. Okay, we had to move to get closer to power. The moment of truth. Do I have to adjust things? I don't think I hit the button back. Hold on. That'd be good. Oh, we got green light there. That shouldn't be difficult to achieve though. Okay. In 3, 2, 1, liftoff. Bottom fans. Graphics card RGB. RGB on the pump fan. RGB on our light strip. Front fans. 1, 2, 3. Hard to see with that, but in the sunlight. Okay, I think we're in business. Although it turned right off. Uh-oh. All right, let's try it in here. Did I turn off the back again? I did. Sorry. One more time. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're in business. Time to dig through all this stuff. Figure out what I gotta do next. Okay, so my PC is complete. Did run into some snags, some troubles. Particularly at the very end, I ran into an interesting issue that I could not find an answer for online. But basically what was happening was it would skip the section of the boot up where you would see the option to go into BIOS. I tried using the advanced startup to try and get into BIOS. Same thing, it would not show. I basically have to hit enter to select, start Windows normally to get it back to Windows. I think that's what it was doing. I couldn't see the screen. So messed around with the RTX 3080, switching over to integrated graphics, did all kinds of stuff, could not figure it out. Finally, I found a post online stating that sometimes it's just not outputting that through HDMI, to try a different type of cable. So that's when I brought it into here to the full setup, hooked it up to these guys, which are DisplayPort cables, and it worked. So I was able to get my memory up to speed, make sure the BIOS was set correctly, fan speeds and all that. And since then, it's been pretty good. I've had one shutdown when I was doing a whole bunch of stuff at once. I'm not sure what caused that. Here we are. It's not gonna have the most RGB you've ever seen, but it's got a tasty amount. I really do like the look of this Fractal Designs case, the Fractal Torrent. So, difficult? Yes and no. I mean, the plan I was following, case comes with 2 giant fans in here. And the plan I was following was take those 2 fans, put them in the bottom, replace the 3 smaller fans, then put in your AIO in the front. That was so tight to this motherboard. I guess you can do it to some, but it was so tight I was really afraid of damaging the motherboard or not having the fans have enough clearance or something. So I went back to the 3 fans. I had to play with them a whole bunch because this AIO, I tried to slide it up to create room for the fans. I tried to slide the fans out. Eventually the combination of the 2 did give me enough clearance to just keep the 3 fans down here with the AIO. That was probably the biggest issue, along with this weird video thing, which came down to just using a DisplayPort cable. So other than that, not too bad. RAM is easy, hard drive's easy, CPU is scary but easy. Fans and AIO was a little more annoying. Also, not having built a computer or even upgraded recently a computer, I didn't realize that now I've got different types of connectors and multiple sets of wires coming out of these things because they're RGB versus the power cable, and then daisy chaining certain ones together and then making sure they go to the right jumper on the motherboard. So basically it's just more complicated. Is it really hard? No. Is it something where you want to plan ahead of time? Yes, absolutely. In fact, it's kind of funny because I referenced that this board, this case, the Fractal Torrent, was recommended by Gamers Nexus, and I totally forgot the section of that video which talks about how moving those fans is one of the setups, but they don't recommend it because it is so darn tight. So maybe I should have rewatched the video one more time.
Taking a look at the breakdown, my original goal was to try and stay as close to $2,000 in my budget as possible. I was able to make up some big savings on the RTX 3080 as well as the i7 12700K. My other big discount came on the Samsung 980 Pro 2TB, which I mentioned was only $16 more than the 1TB I purchased a year ago. Overall, I'm extremely happy with the build. It is extremely competitive with pre-builds, but I believe with the higher quality components, this is definitely the way to go if you're dedicated to doing it.
But that's it. It's built. I don't have to worry about that part anymore. Now to start editing these videos and getting them online.